All right, so I want to do a quick video that I thought about, which is to answer the question. Okay, the question is it unrealistic? Is it unrealistic to listen to the positive voice, or is it naive to listen to the positive voice? And I'm going to go ahead and tell you that the answer to that question is no, and I will explain why. There are two main reasons why I can think about it. So the first reason, if you imagine that this is all the things that happen in the world, okay? Things, and let's just roughly divide those things into good and bad. And let's just say they're 50-50. I don't actually think that that's reality, but let's just say that they're 50-50. And you live in the world, and so here's you, and actually we'll just draw you here in the middle, because no matter who you are or where you live, you are never in all good or all bad. If you choose in your life to focus on the positive voice, what you are consciously doing is you're consciously deciding that your eyes, your thoughts, your mind are going to go towards the good much more often than they are going to go towards the bad. So let's put a little one. That is really the definition of focusing on the positive voice. You're focusing on the good more than the bad. Now, what you are not doing, you're not completely shutting off and ignoring the bad. You're not saying, oh, the bad doesn't exist and trying to scratch it out or anything like that. You are just choosing that, hey, most of my time and attention is going to be focused on the good and only a little tiny bit on the bad when it comes up, when it has to be focused on. And what you are doing when you do that is you are just choosing the world that you pay attention to. In every situation in your life, there are going to be things that are good and there are going to be things that are bad. And you have the option. You can choose to look at the bad, or you can choose to look at the good. Either way, it doesn't change the surroundings. It just changes your experience of those surroundings. And if you focus on the bad more, then what you're doing is you're focusing on the good less. And you say, okay, well, no, I want to have a perfectly balanced focus between bad and good. That's fine. You can do that. But the fact is that the thing that makes the most sense to do is to focus on those things which you can in some way control or influence or change. So, for example, if you're the owner of a company that collects trash and there's trash spilling out everywhere, you can decide to change the way that your company does things and do things cleaner. And that is something that you can control. But if you're just a regular citizen, you can comment, you can try and influence the trash company a little bit, but really it's not under your control. And so beyond taking some small steps that make sense to mitigate the bad, it's really not worth your time to focus on it if there's nothing that you can do. And I think it's the Serenity Prayer. So as you go throughout your life, you spend the needed amount of time on the things that you would call bad, but then you get to choose what you're going to focus on. And you can walk down the street, and instead of focusing on all the trash, you can say, wow, isn't it so nice that I have a paved street or a sidewalk? Or, oh, look at these trees, or, oh, look at the beautiful blue sky, or whatever it is. There are different things that you can focus on. So you can command your attention, and that is one of the reasons why it's not unrealistic or naive to choose to focus more of your attention on the good and less of it on the bad. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is to realize that these things have question marks. And the reason why is because we all get to decide. Good and bad are very subjective terms. There's something that we get to decide, that we get to define every day and every second in our lives. And because we get to make that decision, we honestly can decide, hey, you know what? I am going to choose to look at things in the world instead of as bad, and maybe even instead of as good, as just perhaps like what I want and what I don't want. Because really what you're just doing is you're creating the kind of life that you want. You're moving towards the things that you want, which for you are the positive things. And as you do that, it is creating your own reality. Reality is perception. So I was in a huge rush when I recorded that video, and it was really bothering me why I wasn't getting the point across that I wanted to get across. And I finally, last night, this is about 2 days later, I finally realized what it was that I wanted to say. When I talk about focusing on making things what you want and what you don't want and all that kind of thing, I don't just mean that you decide, okay, I don't want this thing, so I'm going to ignore it completely. What I mean is you look for the things that you want, the things that you like, the positive in everything. So let's say you just found out that your close loved one is dying of cancer. That obviously is a pretty objectively negative type of thing. It's hard to put a real positive spin on it unless you just get really, you're trying to rationalize really hard. But you can choose to focus your mind on the positive aspects of that. Like, for example, okay, what can you do when you are diagnosed with cancer? Well, okay, now you have all these opportunities to say, hey, I'm dying, I'm going to do this thing that I never did before. Or, hey, I am, you can chronicle that journey, you can help other people with it, you can meet a bunch of new cancer survivors, you can join cancer groups. There are a lot of things that do open up to you when you're in some kind of a negative situation. Let's say you have somebody be really mean to you in one way or another. You can look at this and say, well, there are a lot of negative things about this, but maybe one of the positives is, and fill in the blanket, it's giving you some opportunity to experience something you had never experienced, or to grow, or just who knows. I mean, there are a ton of different things. So basically the point is you look at the positive of every situation and you realize that in every situation there's positive. So even if a situation is one of those that you don't want, you look at the things that you might want or what you can create that you want in that situation.